She was a teenager when she married the most feared man in England. They called her the Rose without a thorn. Less than 18 months later, she was kneeling before an executioner. But Catherine Howard wasn't just reckless. She was a girl whose past became a death sentence. A secret past that would be weaponized against her, leading to one of the most chilling final requests in royal history. So, why would a 49-year-old king, notorious for his volatile temper and multiple wives, believe a teenager could be the perfect queen? Because Henry VIII, aging and insecure, believed Catherine Howard was pure, untouched. A perfect English rose to restore his youth and secure his legacy. He had just rid himself of his fourth wife, Anne of Cleves, and was captivated by this lively young girl at court. He showered her with gifts, lands, and affection, blinded by what he thought was her innocence. But Henry's fantasy was built on a lie he didn't even know he was being told. And the truth was buried in Catherine's chaotic childhood. To understand Catherine, you have to understand where she came from. She was raised in the household of her step-grandmother, the Dowager Duchess of Norfolk. But this wasn't a palace. It was more like an under-supervised boarding school for aristocratic girls. The girls slept together in a dormitory, where secrets were currency and rules were made to be broken. It was a place of systemic failure, not teenage rebellion. And in this environment, a young Catherine learned to navigate a world of clandestine meetings and whispered promises. The other girls would sneak men into their chambers at night, and Catherine was part of this secret world. It started with her music teacher, Henry Mannox. He was much older, and what began as flirtation quickly crossed a serious line. He had power over her, and she was a child navigating predatory attention. This wasn't a teenage romance. It was a grooming situation, a prelude to the dangerous relationships that would define her short life. Mannox's inappropriate advances set a pattern, teaching Catherine that affection was transactional and secrecy was essential for survival. This early experience shaped her understanding of relationships, a lesson that would have fatal consequences. Then came Francis Dereham. He was a gentleman in the Duchess's household, and his relationship with Catherine was far more serious. They would meet at night, and Dereham even entrusted her with his money when he went on trips. They called each other husband and wife. Now, this is a crucial detail. Under Tudor law, a promise to marry, followed by a physical relationship, could be considered a legally binding contract, a pre-contract. This meant that Catherine Howard may have already been married before she even met King Henry. If true, her marriage to the king was invalid, and her relationship with him was not just a sin, but an act of treason. The stakes had just skyrocketed from a secret romance to a matter of life and death. For those fascinated by the legal and social complexities of the Tudor era, I highly recommend The 6 Wives of Henry VIII by Alison Weir. It's an incredibly detailed account that dives deep into the laws and customs that govern the lives of women like Catherine. It really helps you understand the trap she was in. Once she became queen, Catherine brought her past with she. She appointed Francis Dereham, her first husband, as a private secretary. It was a reckless move, either an attempt to buy his silence or a naive belief that she could control her old life. But Dereham wasn't the only ghost from her past. At court, she began a dangerous flirtation with one of Henry's favorite courtiers, a man named Thomas Culpeper. Culpeper was handsome, charming, and everything the aging, ailing king was not. Their connection was immediate and intense. They began arranging secret meetings, often late at night in Catherine's chambers. This is where the story shifts into a true crime thriller. The royal court was a web of spies and informants. Every whisper, every glance was noted. For Catherine and Culpeper to carry on an affair under the king's roof was not just foolish, it was suicidal. And they weren't alone. Their go-between, the person who arranged their secret meetings, was Jane Boleyn, also known as Lady Rochford. Jane's name might sound familiar. She was the widow of George Boleyn, Anne Boleyn's brother, who was executed alongside his sister. Lady Rochford was a survivor, hardened by years of court intrigue. Was she a malicious enabler, or a desperate woman trying to stay in the Queen's favor? Her motives remain debated, but her actions helped seal Catherine's fate. The affair couldn't stay secret forever. One letter would destroy everything. During one of Henry's royal progresses, Catherine wrote a letter to Culpeper. It was filled with longing and heartache. In it, she wrote, "It makes my heart to die to think what fortune I have, that I cannot be always in your company. Yours as long as life endures, Catherine." This letter was the smoking gun. It wasn't just proof of an emotional affair. It was proof of a deep, pre-existing bond that made a mockery of her marriage to the king. The letter would eventually find its way into the wrong hands. The betrayal came from someone within Catherine's own circle. A man named John Lascelles, whose sister had served with Catherine in the Dowager Duchess's household, exposed her past. He went to the Archbishop, Thomas Cranmer, and told him everything. About Mannox, about Dereham, and the pre-contract. Cranmer was terrified. How could he tell the king that his beloved rose without a thorn was anything but? He chose the day of All Saints' Day, a holy day. After Mass, as Henry was giving thanks for his perfect queen, Cranmer handed him the letter detailing the allegations. What happened next was not what anyone expected. Henry VIII didn't rage. He didn't scream. He crumbled. He sat in his council chamber and wept, lamenting his terrible fortune in marriage. This wasn't the furious tyrant of legend. This was a broken, humiliated man. His rage would come later, but in that moment, all he felt was betrayal. He ordered an investigation, and the whole sordid story came tumbling out. Dereham and Culpeper were arrested and interrogated. Under torture, they confessed. Catherine was confronted with the evidence. At first, she denied it, but eventually, the weight of the accusations crushed her. She was stripped of her title as queen and imprisoned. But there was a legal problem. Adultery by a queen was treason. But what Catherine had done before her marriage wasn't technically a crime. So, the government did something terrifying. It changed the rules. Parliament passed a Bill of Attainder, a special law that declared a person guilty of a crime without a trial. It also made it treason for a queen to fail to disclose her sexual history to the king before marriage. England didn't just judge Catherine Howard. It rewrote its own laws to ensure her death. If you want a brilliant, empathetic look into Catherine's psychology and the forces that shaped her, I strongly recommend Young and Damned and Fair by Gareth Russell. It's a modern biography that treats her not as a caricature, but as a complex young woman trapped by her circumstances. Imprisoned in the Tower of London, knowing her fate was sealed, Catherine Howard made a final, chilling request. The night before her execution, she asked for the executioner's block to be brought to her room. She spent hours that night practicing, laying her head on the cold wood, rehearsing the final moments of her life. She was determined to die with the dignity of a queen, even if the world saw her as anything but. On the morning of February 13, 1542, the teenager who had been Queen of England walked to the scaffold. She was composed, and her final speech was brief. She admitted her guilt, but maintained she died a queen. Then the axe fell. Her story doesn't end there. Catherine's ghost is said to haunt Hampton Court Palace. Legend says that when she was first arrested, she broke free from her guards and ran down a gallery, screaming for the king, hoping to plead for her life. She was caught before she could reach him. Today, that corridor is known as the Haunted Gallery. Visitors and staff still claim to hear screams and see a spectral figure running through the halls. It's a haunting reminder of her tragic end. So, was Catherine Howard a reckless adulterer who deserved her fate? Or was she a teenager, a victim of abuse and neglect, trapped in a system that was designed to destroy her from the very beginning? She was a product of her environment, a girl whose childhood mistakes were twisted into capital crimes. Her story is a brutal reminder of the power dynamics at the Tudor court. where a young woman's life could be forfeit for the sake of a king's pride. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. And if you found this story as fascinating as I do, please hit that like button and subscribe to History Pickle for more dives into the hidden histories that shaped our world. Thanks for watching.